Hey everyone, hope you all survived 2020. That statement's not going to age poorly at all in the next week, I'm certain of it. Y'all might have a chat for a bit. I've been thinking about self-identity a lot lately, and I've been looking back on the last 2 years and realizing just how much rediscovery there was for me. I don't like to talk about my personal life very much, even though I do talk about it. There's always that risk of parasocial relationships, and with the fact that I'm being stalked by a handful of neo-Nazis, that's, always something you want to minimize. But by the same token, my own stories have proven to be very enlightening for others. Me talking about my abuse from my parents, toxic friends, and my last relationship have, in the past, helped other people realize that they're being abused as well. I had a whole thing a while back where I had to make it clear to people that I wasn't their therapist, but in truth, I've always wanted to make people's lives just a little bit better, even if it's just through entertainment. So I want to talk to you about how I had to rediscover who I was over the last 2 years. I don't know if there will be a point to this. I'm not entirely certain. I don't know, maybe you'll get something out of it. Or maybe I'm just a massive fucking narcissist. I mean, I am, but that's beside the point. Okay, so between 2015 and 2018, I was in an extremely emotionally abusive relationship that occasionally crossed over into physical and even sexual abuse. Because of issues my ex had and hang-ups that she had, and trust me, there were a fucking lot of them, I ended up sacrificing a lot of things in a fruitless attempt to make her happy. My transition was hamstrung by these. I essentially was forced to hide the fact that I'm polyamorous because it made her uncomfortable, and all of this was reinforced by the fact that at the time I met her, I had some really shit friends. Like the friend group I have now, only one person in that group was in that group 5 years ago. A local heavy metal artist named Ethan. Everyone else is fucking gone. Either the friendship imploded, they turned out to be a bigot, or they went to prison. Really. Like, maybe I'll tell you that story sometime. Okay, the point is that when I met this girl, I had a lot of toxic friends, and over time, I eventually just made better friends. In 2015, I met Kalano. 2016, I became friends with Zane. 2017, I met Sketchy. 2018, I met Harmony and Carousel. Ginger also popped in at around that time, and I'd known Ginger for a few years, kind of. She was a regular in my Tumblr Ask box that I eventually started to recognize. Sad thing is that doesn't happen anymore because Tumblr changed over the years, and now everyone's a hyper-timid weirdo who only uses Anon and won't reblog or reply shit. Like, there's no interaction, the site's less fun. But me and Ginger weren't really on what I could call friendly terms until around 2018. So by 2018, I had a largely positive friend group. Patch was in there during the interim, but they were, really not good for my mental health to be around. Long story, I'm not getting into it. So I had a much more positive and supportive community built around me. Most of it built largely from the ashes of the brony community, honestly. A lot of those people were either abuse victims or just cast out by the cattiest trio of 30-year-old men ever. Like, when me and Josh stopped being friends, I got custody of Zane. So, 2018, I've said before, was an absolute fucking horror show. My partner was treating me like dog shit out of petty revenge. I developed stress-induced medical conditions. I was raped that year and again the year after, and then the relationship imploded. Now, the relationship technically ended in June. This was when the writing was on the wall. It wasn't really until February the next year that it was basically a done deal. In between that time, my friends all really stepped up to offer emotional support that my partner just flat out wasn't giving me. So in between the breakup in December and cutting her out of my life in February was a combination of good friends and therapy making me realize that I just sacrificed way too much for this woman. Now, when you're in the situation I was, you become accustomed to trying to meet the expectations of another person, and you sort of build your whole identity around the kind of person they want you to be. And people notice this. They notice the slow change from someone who was very sure of herself to someone who was clearly unhappy and seemingly had nothing going on in her life. And I came out around the time I met this woman as well. My therapist described it as a total destruction of the self, and combined with the trauma of that year, I pretty much ended up as a blank slate. The person I'd made myself into was no longer needed. All my plans for the future had gone up in smoke, and I had to start over. So I basically had to rebuild myself from the ground up, which wasn't easy. It's never easy to do this, but in 2019, that was when I really got going. I had previously given up the prospect of reassignment surgery because my ex wanted me to, but now with my ex gone, that was back on the table, so I went for it. Still in the approval process though, sadly. I could now not only express the fact that I'm polyamorous, I could actually practice it. So when my relationship with Michaela was starting, I said at the very start, I gave up being poly for someone and she spat that in my face. I can't do that again. And she was fine with it. And I actually got 2 other girlfriends that year, Carousel and Ginger. Carousel didn't work out. A bad situation at the wrong time, so to speak. I didn't handle that situation as well as I could have, but my therapist said coming off the heels of my last relationship that she thought I did better than anyone expected me to. Like, me and Carousel are still friends. We still love each other very much. Things were just rocky and we didn't handle certain things well. I especially didn't handle it. I'm the most at fault for that not working out. Carousel's an absolute sweetheart, and I hope one day I can make it up to her. Michaela and Ginger did work out, however. Me and Michaela are very in sync creatively, and we work on a lot of creative projects together. And we're planning to make that our living once we're married and living together. We're going to be a business together. You're going to see a big rebrand like once that happens, so thumbs up. I'm considering making that happen sooner rather than later, honestly. Not sure. But basically, we're going to consolidate our work onto one channel. So let me tell you, being in a polycule that's this loving and this supportive, I could never go back to a monogamous relationship. The fact that I even tried to be monogamous was the biggest fucking mistake of my life. I was not cut out for it in the slightest. My relationship right now is polyamorous and open, which means all 3 of us can date around, sleep around, pretty much do whatever we want. And it is such a relaxed environment that I look back on trying to be a monogamous wife and I'm just going, wow, that was fucking stupid. And it's been so freeing to explore something that I previously thought to always be out of reach. And once you do that and take that step and get something you've always wanted but never went for, suddenly everything else seems so much easier. So 2019 saw me really step out of my element. I took my first trip to the States and went to New York City to see Michaela and Carousel, rented a hotel for the first time, did touristy stuff for the first time, explored, found cool things I really liked, got stranded in Times Square during a blackout, and all 3 of us had an anxiety attack trying to figure out what to do. And according to Michaela, I took charge, got us out, and tended to the other 2. I must have been on an adrenaline high because I barely remember it. Went to the cloisters, but had a lot more fun just walking through a rocky path in the woods. It was a great time. That was the first time I ever really traveled on my own. I went to Toronto, but I had my ex walking me through everything for about 2 days, and I took a bus to Manhattan, which I'm really glad I did because there were long stops in Montreal and Albany where I got to actually wander around for a bit. I got to explore, and I love to explore. I reinvigorated that part of me that just loved finding paths in the woods and seeing where they went. That part of me that could just walk for hours and not lose any energy. Like, I hadn't done that in so long, and it felt so good to do it again. And I've been reinvigorating parts of myself I thought died with my transition, but really hadn't. I just suppressed them. When I was a kid, I used to love playing with sticks like they were swords. I was that feral lesbian child. And when those Ryan Weber lightsaber videos came out, I was always fascinated by the choreography and the special effects. And early in my YouTube career, I actually made prop sabers and learned how to rotoscope. And some of you might actually remember a few of the demo videos I made of those. And for so long, I wanted to buy one of those light up sound making lightsabers that were made for full contact dueling and do that for fun. And I kept putting it off because they were expensive. And so this year, to treat myself at Christmas time, I bought one. It's not here yet, but I actually bought one, and I'm planning to get one for Michaela. And we're going to do that in the field behind my building. We're going to look so stupid, and the other people in the building are going to think we're really stupid, but it's going to be something I haven't done since I was stick fighting with my brother as a kid. And I feel good about that. I like those kind of full contact sports. I always have. As a teenager, I was really into archery, and I did it maybe once or twice in a high school archery club. And I always wanted to do it again, but it always seemed like something that was financially out of reach. And it's hard to divorce yourself from how costs feel when you're 14. It really is. So 14 years and a real salary later, it dawned on me, wait, I can do this. I can buy this stuff. A youth bow is like, what, $50? I can get that, do a little shooting, decide if I like it, and get a real bow later. And guess what? I have a real bow, a traditional wooden recurve bow, and I'm working on getting the other stuff I need. And you know what's funny? My fiance and my girlfriend went nuts over it. They thought it was so fucking sexy that I could shoot a bow. And when I got the recurve bow, Michaela was going nuts over how powerful I looked holding it. And that was a good day. The bow was actually a gift from a friend. So thanks, Allie. But that's 2 adolescent interests revived. But there's so many other things too. Like, green is my color. A dark, rich green looks good on me. And I never considered that before. I was always a black, red, purple kind of girl. But I tried green on a whim after I decided I was going to stop buying clothes in bulk. So I bought a green tunic. and it looked really good. I love it, and I'm looking at more colors. And I'm discovering that I look really good in cold colors, which makes sense since my puppets are drawn with cold colors. But I'd worn all black and rather generic clothes for so long that I'd never considered anything else, and I'm considering them now. I'm finding my aesthetic for my home, and I previously adopted my ex's gothic aesthetic, but I've come to realize that I prefer a more rustic aesthetic. I'm a little bit cottagecore crazy enough, and I never knew that about myself, and I'm gonna be seriously considering that as my decor in the future. Getting more wooden things in my house, definitely going through with it for when I eventually moved into a 2-bedroom apartment, and going to steadily incorporate it into my home now. And I feel good knowing all this about myself, finding an identity that's some of what I used to have, but a lot of new stuff thrown in there. I was picking up the pieces of my life, but I couldn't find them all, so I made new pieces to fill in the gaps, and I'm gluing my life back together out of the old shards, but new material as well, and the end result has become something that I'd be worse off without. With Michaela's help, I've rediscovered a deep love for rather adorable schmaltzy romance centered on mutual emotional support, and I've moved past this reflexive hesitation to get back into writing self-indulgent fanfiction because of my age and how badly it went the last time I did, and we've been writing tons of self-indulgent crap, most of which never gets released, but is fun regardless. We made The Sith Resurgence, a re-rate of the sequel trilogy where Rey gets a Sith wife and her involvement starts a domino effect in the story. And Horde Champion, where Sylvanas gets an emotional support jock wife. And we also made Madhouse, which started out as a deconstructive story, but as this became a more common thing, we were like, fuck it, let's do weird shit. So my ex-bi character now has a codependent friendship with a celery stick, and then they accidentally clone a cryptid baby who is just the most baby. It's a trip. It's a fun, nonsensical, kind of weird trip. Like, writing this comic made me realize that I think I might actually want kids, and that's a bit of a scary thought. Everything about me feels fresh and new and fixed up, and I feel like a new person. I said on Tumblr that looking on my last relationship, I didn't like the person I became. I didn't like the simpering coward who ripped out pieces of herself in the hopes that her partner would actually show her affection. I didn't like the person who put off surgery just so her partner wouldn't have to re-examine her sexuality. I hate that person, and let's be honest, you all hated that person too. I look back on all the projects I made while I was that person, and I don't really like looking at them anymore, because now with the benefit of hindsight, I can see what those projects would have looked like if I'd made them in a healthier state of mind. And they probably wouldn't look all that different if I redid them, but they'd be leaner, more concise, more structured, more relaxed. You probably noticed that in Glass of Water, I've tried a more relaxed vocal recording. Not less clear or less loud, but a little more staggered, a little more casual, you know, kind of like how I sound right now. I'm not trying to sound less angry because my work was never angry. It was just clear and loud and projected. I'm just trying to speed read less is what I'm trying to say. And I feel better about it. I feel better about easing off the throttle and just slowing down and letting the natural flow of my voice kick in. I don't know, I just feel more at peace. I feel less like I'm trying to talk to the back row and I'm not overworking myself anymore. And I think that sums up the last 2 years of therapy and growth as a whole. I just feel more at peace. I feel more relaxed, and I used to feel so rushed. I always had to get somewhere fast and I couldn't ease off the throttle. And I'm more certain of who I am. I'm Lily Orchard. I'm a Cherokee cottagecore lesbian who loves to do archery and write cute schmaltzy romance fanfiction in her spare time. I make my living as a comedian and a critic specializing in children's animation, romance, and LGBTA issues. I'm getting married on February 5th to my lovely girlfriend of 2 years, and I have another girlfriend who is a feral lesbian theater gay, and my ADHD bitch ass can't remember what I was gonna actually end this video on. See ya.